Welcome to the world of science fiction, where extraordinary tales come to life. Enjoy the journey. The wrench slipped from Ray's greasy fingers and clattered against the cargo bay floor, the sound echoing through the nearly empty hold. He'd been underneath his ship for 3 hours now, trying to coax another month of life from the Rusty Dream's failing hydraulic system, when the first Zephyrian dock worker stumbled backward. Then another. Then 6 more, their purple faces contorting with an expression Ray knew too well, hungry disgust. Shit. He rolled out from under the ship, his hand already fumbling for the small metal container in his pocket. The smell blockers. He'd forgotten his morning dose again. A Vorthon merchant who looked like a walking sand sculpture covered what passed for its nose. What is that divine stench? It rasped in accented common, like meat soaked in happiness. Ray dry swallowed 3 pills, twice the recommended dose. His throat burned, but it was better than the alternative. Already, he could see other Zephyrians turning his way, their nostrils flaring. One woman actually licked her lips before catching herself. "Exhaust leak," Ray muttered, wiping his hands on his coveralls. "Makes everything smell weird." The dock worker who'd stumbled, young, maybe 17 in Earth years, stared at him with wide silver eyes. "You're human." "Last time I checked." Ray turned back to his ship, hoping movement would disperse his scent faster. The pills would kick in soon. They had to. "My grandmother says humans taste like..." "Your grandmother's wrong." Ray grabbed his tools, shoving them into his kit harder than necessary. The hidden panel near the pilot's seat caught his eye. Behind it lay the original flavor spec scanner, the device that started everything. 5 years, and he still couldn't bring himself to destroy it. Evidence, he told himself. Proof of his stupidity. The dock cleared quickly once his scent faded, leaving Ray alone with his guilt and his dying ship. Perfect combination for a Tuesday on Gormand. The morning had settled into its usual rhythm. Fix, curse, fix again, when something small and purple crashed into his loading dock at full speed. The child couldn't have been more than 8, silver hair wild and tangled, her expensive-looking tunic torn and stained with something dark. Blood, Ray realized. She was bleeding from a gash on her arm. Mister, you smell funny." She pressed herself against his legs, trembling. Her head barely reached his waist. Like sad cake, but also like... She took a deep sniff. "Safe. You smell safe under the sad." "Kid, you're hurt. Help me. The mean people want to eat me." Her violet eyes were huge with terror. "They have the beepy machines and they said I'm worth lots of money, but I don't want to be food." Ray's blood froze. Flavor hunters. Legal ones, judging by her fear. Illegal hunters didn't usually let their targets run. "Get in the ship." He lifted her easily, noting how she weighed almost nothing. Zephyrian bones were lighter than human ones. "Hide behind the..." "Halt! Talon enforcement!" 3 hunters emerged from the crowded dock, their official silver and black uniforms making other workers scatter. The lead hunter, a tall Zephyrian with skin so dark purple it looked almost black, held up a flavor spec scanner. Ray's stomach twisted at the familiar design. His design, modified and mass-produced. "Sir, please step away from the target," the hunter said, professionally bored. "She's been legally acquired through the lottery system. Compensation has been paid to her family." "I don't have a family," the girl shouted from behind Ray's legs. "You're lying liar faces who lie." "Mirael, please don't make this harder than..." A new voice cut through the tension like a plasma torch through butter. "Did my baby sister just announce herself to the entire dock?" From Ray's cargo hold emerged a young woman who made him forget about hunters, scanners, and his own guilt for exactly 3 seconds. Her purple skin had an almost pearl-like sheen. Her silver hair was pulled into a practical bun that somehow looked elegant, and she moved with the kind of controlled grace that suggested combat training. She was also, Ray noted, absolutely furious. "Dea," Muriel brightened, "I told them I'm tastier than you, that you taste like old boots." Dea's eye twitched. "You told them what?" "Well, you do. Remember when I licked your arm that one time? It was gross." "That was because I'd been working out, you little—" Dea noticed the hunters and shifted immediately into what Ray recognized as a defensive stance. "Gentlemen, I believe there's been a misunderstanding." The lead hunter was already raising his scanner, the device humming as it swept over all of them. His eyes widened, the professional boredom vanishing. "Holy Mother of Spices." "What?" his partner asked. "The human. He's—" The hunter's voice dropped to something close to awe. "5-star. No, beyond that. He's reading like a walking feast. Happy undertones with complex sadness, guilt aged to perfection, and—" He actually sniffed the air. "Is that hope? Just a hint of hope mixed with attraction?" Ray felt heat rise to his face. Attraction? He definitely wasn't. Dea grabbed his arm and his skin tingled where she touched him. "Run now. Discuss readings later." "See?" Muriel announced proudly as they started moving. "My friend is the yummiest. I pick good friends." She paused. "Wait, that's bad, isn't it? I made it worse?" "You think," Dea hissed, pulling them through a narrow gap between shipping containers. The hunters followed, their boots echoing against the metal dock. "Sir, you're harboring a legal acquisition. The penalty—" "Turn left!" Muriel suddenly shouted. "That way smells like mean people." Ray turned right on instinct, pulling both sisters with him. Sure enough, 2 more hunters emerged from the left passage, scanners raised. "How did you—" Dea started. "The scared, angry smell is different from regular angry," Muriel explained, as if this made perfect sense. "And that man back there smells like liar pants mixed with hungry. He's not supposed to be hungry on the job, right?" They dove through a maintenance tunnel, Ray's larger frame barely fitting. Behind them, the hunters' shouts grew more frustrated. The tunnel opened into a service corridor that led back to Ray's dock, and they sprinted for the rusty dream. "Get in! Get in!" Ray slammed his palm against the entry pad. The ramp lowered with agonizing slowness, hydraulics wheezing. "This is your ship?" Dea asked, eyeing the rust spots and exposed wiring. "It flies. So do rocks if you throw them hard enough. Do you want to critique or escape?" They tumbled inside just as the hunters rounded the corner. Ray hit the emergency seal, and the ramp slammed shut with enough force to shake the entire vessel. "That's not going to hold them," Dea said, already moving toward the cockpit. "They have override codes for—" "No, they don't." Ray followed, Muriel clinging to his hand. "I modified the locks. They'd need a military-grade breacher, and legal hunters don't carry those." "How do you know so much about—" Dea stopped mid-sentence, staring at the hidden panel that had popped open during their desperate entry. The flavor spec scanner had fallen out, its distinctive prototype casing gleaming under the ship's lights. "Is that—" "No. That's an original flavor spec, the prototype model." Her voice had gone very quiet. "These were all supposedly destroyed after the technology was sold to the government." "It's a replica," Ray lied badly. Muriel tilted her head, sniffing. "You smell like when I broke Mommy's favorite cup." She paused, considering. "But times a million. Like you broke the biggest cup in the whole world." Her eyes widened. "What did you break?" Dea picked up the scanner, her fingers finding the inventor's mark etched into the base. The mark Ray had put there 5 years ago, back when he thought he was saving the world. "RC," she read, "Ray Castellanos." Her eyes met his, and the fury in them made the hunters seem friendly by comparison. "You're him. You're the bastard who created this." I can explain. Explain! Dea's voice cracked. Do you have any idea what your invention has done? How many people have been taken? How many families destroyed? Yes, Ray said simply. I know exactly what I've done. The admission hung between them like a physical thing. Outside, the hunters were setting up a containment field. They had maybe 10 minutes before the ship's power would be cut. Miriel looked between them, her 8-year-old face scrunched in confusion. Did he make the beepy machines that tell people how yummy we are? Yes, Dea said, not looking away from Ray. Oh. Miriel considered this. That was really stupid. I was trying to help, Ray said, the words tasting like ash. The famine had just started. People were dying. I thought if we could identify who had the best nutritional density, we could create a voluntary donation system. Small samples, lab-grown cultures from the best sources. No one was supposed to be hunted. No one was supposed to die. But they did. Dea's grip on the scanner was white-knuckled. The government took your pretty little invention and turned it into a hunting license. The voluntary system became a lottery. The lottery became rigged. And now, she looked at Miriel. Now they're hunting children. She's not just any child, though, is she? Ray had been piecing it together. The expensive clothes, the way Dea protected her, the fact that legal hunters were after an 8-year-old. Who is she really? Dea hesitated, then sighed. Tell him, Miriel. Tell him what you can do. The little girl puffed up proudly. I can smell feelings, like you smell sad, guilty, angry right now, and Dea smells mad, worried, scared. And those hunters outside smell like mean Brussels sprouts mixed with greed. She has the sovereign sense, Dea explained. The ability to detect emotional states and intentions through scent. It only appears in the Gorman royal bloodline. Ray's mind raced. She's the missing princess, the one who disappeared 3 years ago. My parents died, Miriel said matter-of-factly, the way children do when they've said something too many times. Dea's been my pretend sister since then. I've been investigating why someone wants her dead, Dea added. The official story is that she was kidnapped by separatists, but the truth is, someone in the government has been trying to acquire her through the lottery system. 3 different attempts in the last month alone. But why? Ray asked. What value does? He stopped, the pieces clicking together. Her blood. Royal blood has the highest flavor rating on the planet. And someone's been adding something to the water supply, Dea said. Something that enhances emotional states, makes people happier. Happy people taste better. Euphoria enhancers, Ray breathed. They're drugging the entire population to make them more palatable. You would know about that, wouldn't you? Dea's anger hadn't faded. After all, you started this. Every death, every hunt, every terrified child, it all comes back to you. The containment field hummed to life outside, and the ship's lights flickered. You're right, Ray said. I did this, and I've been trying to fix it ever since. By hiding? By running cargo? By smuggling refugees off-world? He moved to the console, entering a code. A hidden compartment opened, revealing dozens of identification chips. Every person I've saved. Every family I've relocated. It's not enough. It'll never be enough, but... Dea stared at the chips, her anger wavering. You help people? Miriel asked, tugging on his coveralls. Even though you made the bad thing? Because I made the bad thing, Ray corrected. It's my responsibility. The lights cut out completely. Emergency power kicked in, bathing everything in red. They're coming, Dea said. No, Ray said, surprising himself with his certainty. We're leaving. He dropped into the pilot's seat, fingers flying over controls. Miriel, can you tell me what the hunters outside are feeling? She closed her eyes, concentrating. Confident, but also nervous? One of them really needs to pee. Despite everything, Dea snorted. Seriously? Mr. Liar Pants has a small bladder, Mirael said solemnly. Ray found himself almost smiling as he rerouted power from life support to engines. They'd have 3 minutes of air, but they'd be gone in 2. Hold on, he said, and fired the engines. The Rusty Dream lived up to her name, shaking and protesting as she tore free from the containment field. The hunters scattered, the one with the weak bladder actually falling into a maintenance pit. As they burst through Gorman's atmosphere, leaving the hunters and the dock behind, Mirael asked, "Are we heroes now?" "No," Ray said, checking their trajectory. "We're fugitives." "But heroic fugitives?" Dea strapped her in, her hands gentle despite her earlier anger. "We'll see, little one." She moved to the co-pilot's seat and Ray caught her looking at him, really looking, like she was trying to solve a puzzle. "What?" he asked. "You really have been saving people. Not enough of them. But some." She was quiet for a moment. "That's something. It's not forgiveness." "No," she agreed, "but it's a start." As they entered hyperspace, Mirael piped up from behind them. "You two smell weird now. Like angry, sorry, attracted. Are you going to kiss?" "No," they said in unison. "Good," Mirael said, "because that would be gross and we have more important things to do. Like stopping the bad people and saving everyone and maybe getting ice cream." "Ice cream costs more than this ship," Dea reminded her. "Then we'll need a better ship," Mirael said logically. Ray found himself actually laughing, short and bitter, but real. He'd invented the technology that destroyed a world, fallen in love with, no, been attracted to, definitely just attracted to, a woman who had every right to hate him, and adopted a princess who could smell his feelings. His life had officially become more complicated than his guilt, and somehow that felt like progress. The bucket exploded against the wall, sending brown-green sludge across the abandoned mining station's floor. Ray had finally reached his limit with Mirael's anti-flavor spray. 3 days of smelling like a composted corpse, he growled, wiping gunk from his face. 3 days! It worked, didn't it? Mirael shot back, though she stepped behind Dea. Nobody tried to eat you. A Vorthon literally ran away crying yesterday. Do you know how hard it is to make a rock creature cry? The argument might have continued, but the station's old communication array suddenly crackled to life. Before anyone could stop her, Mirael dove for it like a purple missile. "Hi, this is Princess Mirael. We're at Mining Station 7 in the..." Dea's hand clamped over her mouth while Ray killed the transmission. But those 4 seconds had already done their damage. In the silence that followed, they could hear it, the distant whine of approaching engines. "Pack everything," Ray ordered, his anger evaporating into cold efficiency. "We have maybe 10 minutes. 8 minutes later, Director Solon stood in their abandoned hideout examining the still warm food containers. The Child Protection Service's badge on her chest gleamed official and trustworthy. "Princess," she called sweetly into the empty space, "I have fresh cookies, real chocolate, not synthetic." From their hiding spot in the ventilation shaft, Mirael whispered, "She smells like Brussels sprouts covered in perfume, and fear, lots of fear." Solon's hand moved to her hip, not to a scanner but to something worse, a military-grade tracking beacon. "Shit," Ray breathed. "She's not CPS, she's..." The wall exploded. Through the smoke came 4 hunters in full combat gear, flavor spec scanners painting laser grids across the rubble. They ran. Not the comedic scrambling of before, but desperate, terrified flight. Dea's government training showed as she laid down suppressive fire with a stolen pulse weapon. Ray carried Mirael, her face buried in his shoulder to block the acrid smoke. The Rusty Dream sat exactly where they'd left her, but now surrounded by a containment field that shimmered like oil on water. "I can break it," Dea said, pulling out her data extractor. "But I need 2 minutes." "We don't have—" A pulse blast scorched the air where Ray's head had been. "Down." The firefight was brief and ugly. Ray had never shot anyone before. 5 years of running had always been enough. But when a hunter's blast caught Dea in the shoulder, spinning her to the ground, something primitive took over. His return fire wasn't meant to wound. "You killed him," Muriel said quietly, staring at the motionless hunter. "Yes." Ray didn't sugarcoat it. The kid deserved truth. To save us. "Yes." She nodded solemnly. He smelled like old hate anyway. The containment field fell. They dragged Dea aboard, her purple blood soaking through Ray's shirt as he carried her. The wound wasn't fatal. Zephyrians were tougher than humans, but she'd need medical attention soon. As they broke atmosphere, Muriel's stink spray finally proved its worth. The dock's biosensors, calibrated to detect appetizing scents, completely ignored their ship. They slipped through the orbital checkpoints like a ghost made of garbage. "See?" Muriel said, trying to lighten the mood. "My stink spray saved us." "After your broadcast nearly killed us," Dea groaned from the medical berth. "I said I was sorry. You said you were sorry-ish. Well, I am-ish." The government water treatment facility squatted in Gorman's northern mountains, a brutal chunk of concrete and steel that looked like it had been designed by someone who hated both architecture and joy. According to Dea's intelligence, the evidence they needed was 30 floors underground, past security that made their previous infiltrations look like playground games. "Your shoulder," Ray protested as Dea suited up, "is fine." She winced, proving it wasn't. "We need that evidence. Every day we wait, more people get dosed with enhancers." "I could go alone." "Into a facility where everyone can smell that you're a walking buffet? Sure, that'll work." "Then we need a better plan." "I have one," Muriel piped up. "We use my nose." They both turned to stare at her. "Think about it," she continued, bouncing with 8-year-old enthusiasm. "I can smell lies and feelings. In a building full of bad guys lying about their feelings, I'm like a super detector." "Absolutely not," they said in unison. "You just jinxed. Now you have to kiss." "That's still not how jinx works," Dea said. "You kissed on the roof anyway," Muriel pointed out. "The whole ventilation system smelled like teenage hormones for an hour." Ray felt heat creep up his neck. "We're adults, not teenagers." "Then why do you smell like confused puberty every time she stretches?" "Okay," Dea interrupted loudly. "New plan. We infiltrate during shift change, use the maintenance tunnels, and absolutely do not bring the 8-year-old. 40 minutes later, all 3 of them crawled through a maintenance tunnel that reeked of industrial cleaning fluid and despair. "I hate that you were right," Dea whispered to Muriel. "I'm always right. Like when I said the cookies were lying, and when I said that guard needed to pee, and when I said you two wanted to do mouth stuff." "Shh," Ray hissed. They'd reached a grate overlooking the facility's main conference room. Director Holloway stood at a holographic podium, addressing 40 officials in identical gray suits. The presentation behind him showed a map of Gorman with color-coded zones. "Phase 3 begins next week," Holloway announced. "We'll increase the euphoric compounds by 60% in the red zones, the slums, the refugee sectors. Our projections indicate a 70% increase in premium-grade citizens within those populations." "Premium-grade citizens," one official asked, "is perhaps too clinical a term." Holloway's smile could have frozen flame. "Would you prefer delicious poor people, Administrator Hart? Because that's what they are. Resources to be optimized." Muriel tugged Ray's sleeve. "That one," she pointed at Hart, "smells guilty. Fresh guilty, like just stepped on a puppy guilty." Dr. Hart stood abruptly. "This is monstrous. We're supposed to be solving the food crisis, not turning citizens into cuisine. The two are not mutually exclusive. Holloway's voice carried the kind of calm that preceded violence. In fact, our partnership with the Castellanos Corporation ensures both profit and sustainability. Ray's jaw clenched. His family's name hung in the air like a curse. The Castellanos Corporation, Hart continued, her voice shaking, whose heir invented this technology? The same heir who fled when he realized what it would become. The same heir, Holloway said smoothly, whose parents have put a 50 million credit bounty on his safe return. Imagine what advances he could make with proper motivation. The presentation shifted to a photograph that made Ray's blood freeze. It was him, but recent, taken within the last week. In the image, he was laughing at something Muriel had said, looking happier than he'd been in years. "We know he's on planet," Holloway continued, "with the missing princess and a government inspector who's gone rogue. When we find them, and we will, young Mr. Castellanos will perfect his technology whether he wants to or not." "How?" Hart demanded. "Torture? Leverage." Holloway gestured and the image changed to show Dea and Muriel. Amazing what people will do for those they care about. A new voice cut through the room, smooth, cultured, and colder than space. Now, Director Holloway. Threats are so crude." The main screen flickered to life, revealing Miranda Castellanos in all her terrifying glory. Her silver hair was pulled into a severe bun. Her suit probably cost more than most people's homes, and her smile could have been weaponized. "Mom," Ray breathed. Muriel's nose wrinkled. "Your mom smells mean even through the screen, like broken glass and disappointed expectations." "Mrs. Castellanos," Holloway practically groveled, "we weren't expecting. I've been monitoring your progress, Director. Or should I say, lack thereof." Miranda's eyes swept the room like a predator cataloging prey. "My son has been running around your planet for a week, and you've failed to acquire him. The situation is complex. The situation is simple. You want my technology. I want my son. Make it happen, or I'll find someone who can." The screen went dark, leaving the room in stunned silence. "Well," Hart said quietly, "at least we know where he gets his moral flexibility." Holloway shot her a look that promised retribution. "You're relieved of duty, Dr. Hart. Security will escort you to—" The lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in a second later, bathing everything in hellish red. An alarm began wailing, not the standard security alert, but something worse. "Contamination detected," an automated voice announced. "Unknown biological agent in Sector 7. Evacuation recommended." "That's us," Dea whispered. "Sector 7 is right above us." Sure enough, Ray could smell it now. Muriel's stink spray seeping through the ventilation system. The industrial-strength filters that should have cleaned it were instead spreading it, creating a building-wide assault on everyone's olfactory senses. "My spray," Muriel said proudly. "It came back." "Like a really gross boomerang," Dea agreed. The room below erupted in chaos. Officials ran for exits, gagging and retching. Holloway tried to maintain order, but it's hard to look authoritative when you're dry heaving into a wastebasket. "Now's our chance," Ray decided. They dropped through the grate, landing in the evacuated conference room. Dea went straight for Holloway's abandoned console, her fingers flying over the holographic interface. "Got it," she said, downloading terabytes of evidence, financial records, chemical formulas, correspondence with the Castellanos Corporation, everything. Including this. Dr. Hart stood in the doorway, holding a data pad. She looked green from the smell, but determined. "Security footage from 5 years ago. The meeting where your parents, Mr. Castellanos, explicitly discussed using your invention for population control through hunting." Ray took the pad with numb fingers. There they were, his parents, younger but no less cold, casually discussing how many people would need to die to make the technology profitable. Why? He asked Hart. Because someone needs to stop this. She glanced at Mirael, who was busy making faces at a security camera. Because children shouldn't be hunted for having the wrong genetics. Come with us, Dea offered. Hart shook her head. I have contacts in the Resistance. I'll do more good here. Go. Security will recover soon. They ran again, but this time with purpose. The evidence they carried could topple the entire system if they lived long enough to broadcast it. Back on the Rusty Dream, as Gorman shrank behind them, Ray found Dea in the medical bay, struggling to rebandage her shoulder. Let me, he offered. She nodded, turning so he could reach the wound. His fingers brushed her skin, and that familiar spark shot through him, his pheromones spiking immediately. You know, she said quietly, Mirael's right. You do smell like birthday cake when you're happy. Am I happy? Are you? He considered it. They were fugitives with half the galaxy hunting them. His parents wanted to lobotomize him for science. An 8-year-old princess kept embarrassing him about his attraction to a woman who should hate him. Yeah, he admitted, I think I am. She turned to face him and they were close enough that he could see flecks of silver in her purple eyes. This is insane, she whispered. Completely. We could die tomorrow. Probably. I still haven't forgiven you. Not completely. I know. She kissed him anyway, fierce and desperate, tasting like alien spices and revolution. His hands found her waist, pulling her closer, and for a moment the universe narrowed to just this, her lips, her warmth, the impossible electric connection between them. Oh, come on! Mirael's voice shattered the moment. The entire ship smells like hormones now. It's like living inside a romance novel written by someone who's really lonely. They broke apart, laughing despite themselves. We should check on her, Dea said. In a minute. Ray caught her hand. Just one more minute of smelling like happy cake. The communication console erupted in static, killing the mood entirely. Miranda Castellanos filled the screen, and somehow she looked even more terrifying than before. Hello, son. How did you find your frequency? Please. I've been monitoring you since you left that pathetic mining station. Her gaze shifted. Miss Dea, isn't it? Colony raised, spy parents, currently suffering from a pulse weapon wound to the left shoulder, and the princess, fascinating ability. She could revolutionize the flavor spec technology. She's not a lab rat, Ray snarled. No, she's leverage. Miranda's smile was arctic. You have 24 hours to surrender yourself or I'll ensure that every hunter, legal and illegal, knows exactly where you are. The bounty on a living Castellanos who can perfect the flavor spec? You can't imagine. You're bluffing. Am I? She gestured and the screen split to show dozens of ships, hunter vessels, military craft, even pirate raiders. They're already mobilizing. 24 hours, Ray. Come home, continue your work and your friends live. Refuse. She shrugged elegantly. Well, Zephyrian children are considered quite the delicacy, I'm told. The screen went dark. In the silence that followed, Mirael said quietly, Your mom needs therapy, like all the therapy, and maybe a hug, but from someone wearing armor. She needs more than that, Ray muttered. So what do we do? Dea asked. Ray looked at his makeshift family, this strange, impossible, perfect collection of broken people who'd somehow found each other. Dea, wounded but unbroken. Mirael, traumatized but still hopeful. Himself, guilty but finally fighting for something worthwhile. We end this, he said, but not the way she expects. How? He smiled, and it wasn't nice. We're going to destroy the flavor spec technology, all of it, every scanner, every blueprint, every line of code, including the knowledge in my head. That's impossible, Dea protested. No, Ray corrected, pulling up schematics on his console. Just really, really dangerous, and probably stupid. I like stupid plans, Mirael announced. They smell like adventure. The ship shuddered suddenly, throwing them all sideways. Through the viewports, they could see the truth. They were surrounded. 20 ships hung in space around them, weapons charged. Ray Castellanos, a voice crackled over the comm. By order of the High Council and the Castellanos Corporation, you are commanded to surrender. Well, Dea said, checking her weapon, at least we know the plan works. What plan? Mirael asked. The one where we're the bait, Ray replied, his fingers flying over the controls. Hold on to something. This is going to get bumpy. He grabbed the throttle, met Dea's eyes one last time and smiled. For what it's worth, he said, you smell like hope. You smell like trouble, she replied, but she was smiling too. And you both smell like cheese, Mirael added helpfully. Then Ray hit the thrusters and they dove straight toward the planet's surface, 20 ships following like hungry wolves, the future of Gorman hanging in the balance. The Rusty Dream screamed toward the planet, her hull glowing cherry red from atmospheric friction. Behind them, 20 ships followed in perfect formation. They had 23 hours left, and absolutely no idea how they were going to survive them. The Rusty Dream plummeted through Gorman's atmosphere like a meteor made of rust and bad decisions. 20 hunter ships followed, their weapons locked but not firing. Miranda Castellanos wanted her son alive. Hull temperature critical, the ship's computer announced with infuriating calm. I know! Ray fought the controls as another shudder rattled his teeth. Through the viewport, the capital city rushed up to meet them, purple buildings growing larger by the second. That's the Castellanos Tower. Mirael pointed at a spire that dominated the skyline, not crystal or glass, but brutal black metal that absorbed light like a wound in reality. Home sweet home, Ray muttered, pulling the ship into a spiral that made his stomach revolt. Dea gripped his shoulder, her fingers digging in hard enough to bruise. You're sure about this? Your plan? No. He met her eyes briefly. But it's the only one we've got. The ship screamed between buildings, hunter vessels peeling off rather than risk civilian casualties. Only 3 followed them into the narrow urban canyons. Ray waited until they were directly over the tower's landing platform, then killed the engines. Brace for... The impact threw them all forward. The Rusty Dream hit the platform hard enough to crack the reinforced concrete, skidding to a stop mere meters from the edge. Through the smoke and sparks, Ray could see security forces surrounding them. Ray Castellanos, a voice boomed through external speakers. Exit the vehicle with your hands visible. This is it, he said, moving toward the airlock. But first he opened a hidden panel in the floor, one even Dea hadn't known about. Inside lay a device the size of a briefcase, covered in warnings and hand-scrawled equations. What is that? Dea asked. Project Infinite Harvest. He lifted it carefully. 5 years of guilt turned into something useful. It looks like a bomb. It's the opposite of a bomb. Bombs destroy. This creates. He turned to face them both. If everyone has enough to eat, then nobody's flavor matters anymore. Mirael sniffed at the device, then jerked back. It smells like everything, like every food that ever was and ever could be. That's the idea. Ray handed Dea a small transmitter. When I give the signal, broadcast this frequency. It'll activate every taste node we planted. We didn't plant any... He smiled. I've been planting them for months. Every refugee I smuggled out carried one. They're in vending machines, food printers, and replicators across the planet. You planned this? I planned for this possibility. He turned to Mirael. You remember what to do? She saluted with 8-year-old seriousness. Deliver packages to all the addresses. Don't get caught. Don't eat the cookies even if they smell really good. And if anyone asks, I'm just a lost kid looking for my parents. Perfect. He kissed the top of her head, then turned to Dea. If this goes wrong, it won't. She pulled him down for a fierce kiss that tasted like determination, because you're too stubborn to fail. Actually, Mirael interrupted, he smells like he might throw up. Is that normal for heroes? Despite everything, Ray laughed. Completely normal. He stepped out onto the platform, hands raised, the harvest device mag-locked to his back where the security forces couldn't see it. 20 guns tracked his movement. Hello, son. Miranda Castellanos stood at the platform's edge, immaculate in a suit that probably cost more than most colonies. Her smile could have frozen stars. Mother. The word tasted like ash. 5 years of running and you finally come home. How dramatic. She gestured and the security team moved in, roughly checking him for weapons. They missed the device. Its casing was designed to read as a spinal medical implant on scanners. I'm done running. Yes, you are. She turned on her heel. Bring him. The tower's interior was exactly as Ray remembered, all sharp angles and cold efficiency. No art, no warmth, just function and intimidation. They rode an elevator that climbed for what felt like hours, finally opening onto the penthouse conference room where the High Council waited. 40 beings of various species sat in judgment. Zephyrians, Vorthons, even a few humans. At the room's center stood a new generation flavor spec scanner, larger and more complex than anything Ray had designed. Ladies and gentlemen, Miranda announced, my son has returned to perfect his creation. I've returned to destroy it, Ray corrected. The room erupted in angry voices. Miranda simply raised her hand for silence. Destroy it? You can't destroy an idea, Ray. The technology exists. The hunger exists. The only question is who controls the system. Nobody should control it. How delightfully naive. She moved to the scanner. This new generation doesn't just detect flavor profiles. It can alter them, make the unpalatable delicious, the worthless valuable. Imagine complete control over the food chain itself. That's monstrous. That's evolution. She gestured to the viewing wall, which became transparent, revealing the city below. Look at them, Ray. Scrambling for scraps, selling themselves for meals. Your technology didn't create this. It just organized it. You're right, Ray said, moving toward the scanner. I can't destroy an idea, but I can replace it with a better one. He pressed his palm against the scanner's interface. It should have required his neural imprint to activate. Instead, he used it as a transmission point, sending a signal through the tower's entire network. Somewhere below, Dea received the signal and began broadcasting. Across the city, tiny devices hidden in food systems activated. What are you doing? Miranda demanded. Dinner, Ray said simply. The first indication something was wrong came from the street, cheering, confused and scattered at first, then growing into a roar. Through the viewing wall, they could see food printers in the plaza below suddenly springing to life, producing bread, fruits, full meals from nothing but atmospheric carbon and trace minerals. Impossible, someone breathed. Infinite harvest, Ray corrected. Turns out, the same technology that identifies molecular flavor compounds can rearrange them. Every atom of carbon in the air, every trace mineral in water, it's all food waiting to be assembled. The energy requirements alone are negligible when you're not trying to profit from scarcity. He pulled the device from his back, slamming it into the scanner's core. This is the prototype. It's been learning, adapting, preparing to propagate itself through any compatible system. The scanner began to glow, its internal structure reconfiguring. Throughout the building, every food printer, every replicator, every system connected to the network began transforming. "You're destroying the economy," Holloway shouted. "I'm destroying hunger," Ray replied. "The economy will adapt." Miranda moved faster than her age should have allowed, pulling a pulse pistol from her jacket. "I won't let you." A small purple blur slammed into her legs. Mirael had appeared from nowhere. She must have crawled through the ventilation system. "No hurting Ray," she shouted. "He smells like good choices." The gun went flying. Miranda stumbled, and in that moment of chaos, Dea burst through the emergency stairs, her own weapon raised. "Nobody move," she commanded. "A trap," Miranda said coldly. "This whole surrender was a trap." "No," Ray said, his hand still on the transforming scanner. "It was a choice. The same choice you could have made 5 years ago. Feed everyone or feed on everyone." The scanner's glow intensified. Warning lights flashed as power surged through the building's systems. "It's overloading," someone screamed. "It'll destroy the entire tower." "Not destroy," Ray said, though sweat ran down his face from the effort of controlling the reaction. "Transform." The building shuddered. Through the viewing wall, they could see the transformation spreading. Every building with a food system suddenly blooming with production. The slums, the markets, even the orbital stations visible as points of light began pulsing with the telltale glow of matter reorganization. "You don't understand," Miranda said desperately. "Without scarcity, without hunger, what motivates society? What drives progress?" "I don't know," Ray admitted, "but it's better than this." The scanner began to crack, energy bleeding through in waves that made everyone's hair stand on end. The reaction was going critical, not explosive, but transformative on a scale that would rewrite Gorman's entire biosphere. "Everyone out," Dea ordered. "I have to stabilize it," Ray said. "If I let go now, the cascade will consume everything. Buildings, people, the planet itself will become one giant food printer." "That's not stabilizing, that's dying." "Maybe." He looked at her, memorizing her face. "Take Mirael. Run." "No." Mirael grabbed his leg. "Heroes don't die. They win and get cake. Sometimes heroes make sure everyone else gets cake." He gently pried her off, pushing her toward Dea. "Go. Please." Dea's eyes filled with tears, real tears, not the purple equivalent. "You bastard! You beautiful, stupid bastard!" "I love you too," he said, and meant it. She grabbed Mirael and ran. The rest of the council fled. Even the security forces abandoned their posts. Only Miranda remained. "You'll kill us both," she said quietly. "You could leave. This is my tower, my empire. If you're destroying it, I'll watch it fall." For the first time in his life, Ray saw something almost like pride in his mother's eyes. The scanner exploded, not with force but with light. Pure, white light that rewrote the laws of matter itself. Ray felt his consciousness fragmenting, merging with the algorithm, becoming part of the distribution matrix. He was everywhere and nowhere, a ghost in the machine that would feed the world. His last coherent thought was that he finally smelled like hope. The tower didn't collapse. It transformed, metal and concrete becoming something new, a massive tree-like structure that pulsed with life, producing food from its very walls. The transformation spread across the city, buildings blooming into vertical farms, the air itself shimmering as molecular assemblers pulled carbon from the atmosphere. In the plaza below, Dea and Mirael watched in awe as the world remade itself. "Is he—" Mirael couldn't finish the question. A hologram flickered to life above them, Ray's face, translucent and serene. "I'm not gone," his voice echoed from every speaker in the city. "I'm just everywhere now, part of the system, making sure it works, making sure everyone eats." "That's stupid," Mirael shouted at the hologram. "You were supposed to marry Dea and have babies and be happy." The hologram smiled. "I am happy. And Dea?" "Yeah?" Her voice cracked. "The transformation isn't irreversible. Give me time. I'm learning to separate myself from the code, to be human again, not just humanity's feeding tube." "How long?" "I don't know, but I promise. I'm coming back." The hologram faded, but throughout the city the production continued. Food appeared in every home, every street corner. The starving ate. The hunters put down their scanners. The entire economic structure of Gorman collapsed in minutes, and nobody cared because for the first time in centuries, everyone was full. 3 months later, the Sky Villa overlooked Gorman's transformed landscape, cities that had become vertical gardens, oceans cleaned by molecular filters, air that smelled of bread and growing things. The Castellanos Corporation had collapsed within days, its assets seized and converted to public trust. Ironically, as the legal inheritors of Ray's estate and his patents, Dea and Mirael were now the wealthiest people on the planet. Dea stood on the balcony, her hand resting on her slightly swollen belly. The pregnancy had been unexpected, a final gift from that last night before everything changed. She watched the sunset paint the sky in impossible colors, the atmosphere itself changed by the harvest. "Dea!" Mirael burst through the doors wearing her school uniform covered in hollow patches. "Look what they made at school. Hero cinnamon bread. It's named after Ray." She held up a glowing loaf that actually did smell like cinnamon. "That's wonderful, sweetie. Do you think he knows? Wherever he is in the computer thingy?" "I think he knows everything that happens with the food systems." Mirael put her hand on Dea's belly. "Does the baby know their daddy is everywhere?" "They will." A shimmer in the air made them both turn. The hologram that appeared wasn't the usual city-wide broadcast, but something smaller, more personal. Ray's image, clearer than before, almost solid. "I'm getting better at this," he said, and his voice sounded real, present. "Ray!" Mirael jumped up and down. "Guess what? Dea's having a baby and I'm going to be a big sister and we're super rich and nobody's hunting anyone anymore and—" "Breathe," Dea laughed. The hologram smiled, that crooked smile she remembered. "A baby?" "Your baby," Dea confirmed. "Due in 6 months. I'll be back before then." "You keep saying that. This time I mean it. I've been separating my consciousness from the network, bit by bit, creating an independent AI to run the harvest while I download myself back into reality. Is that even possible?" "Everything's possible when you're made of code and determination." His image solidified further, and for a moment she could almost believe he was really there. "The system's stable now, self-sustaining. It doesn't need me anymore." "We need you," Mirael said quietly. "I know, and I'm coming home. I promise." The hologram reached out, and Dea swore she could almost feel his touch. "2 more weeks," he said. "I've already grown a new body in the biotanks. My original was too integrated to save, but this one, it'll be me. Same memories, same bad jokes, same inability to remember my smell blockers." "You better not smell like sad cake anymore," Mirael warned. "I'll smell like hope," he promised, "and maybe a little cinnamon." As the hologram faded, Dea felt the baby kick for the first time. She gasped, grabbing Mirael's hand to share the moment. "They're saying hello," Mirael declared. "They know their daddy's coming home." Above them, the sky filled with lights. Not stars, but food dispensers in orbit, feeding the colonies, the stations, even ships passing through the system. Ray's gift to the universe, spreading beyond Gorman to anywhere hunger existed. 2 weeks, Dea whispered to her belly. "Your father will be home in 2 weeks." Mirael hugged her tight. "We're going to be a real family. A weird one with a dad who used to be a computer and a mom who's a spy and me who can smell feelings but still, real. The realist, Dea agreed. They watched the sun set over their transformed world, where no one would ever be hunted for their flavor again. The air smelled of bread and possibility, and in 2 weeks, just 2 more weeks, their family would be complete. In the distance, the great tree that had been Castellano's tower pulsed with gentle light, producing its endless bounty. And if you listened carefully, you could hear music in the hum of its production, a lullaby of abundance, singing the planet to sleep with the promise that tomorrow, like every tomorrow after, there would be enough. He did it, Muriel said softly. He really saved everyone. No, Dea corrected, pulling her close. We did it, together. The little girl sniffed the air and smiled. You know what? Right now, this very second, the whole world smells like happiness, and not the fake drug kind, the real kind. What does real happiness smell like? Muriel considered this seriously. Like cinnamon bread and baby powder and sunset and home, like family. That's perfect, Dea said, and meant it. 2 weeks, just 2 more weeks, and then their happily ever after could truly begin. 5 years later, the thunderstorm rolled across Gorman's Western Ocean like nature's own theater, purple lightning illuminating waves that crashed against the cliff where their house perched. Inside, the chaos was entirely homemade. Dad, she's doing it again. 4-year-old Adam stood in the kitchen doorway, his father's blonde hair sticking up at impossible angles, his mother's purple skin flushed with indignation. In his small fist, he clutched what had once been a sandwich. Doing what? Ray called from his workshop, a converted bedroom where he still tinkered with improvements to the harvest system, though more out of habit than necessity. She tasted my sandwich with her nose, and now it's all wrong. Muriel, now 13 and somehow even more precocious, lounged on the counter like a purple cat. I was conducting a scientific experiment. His emotional state directly affects flavor perception. When he's angry, everything tastes like cardboard to him. That's not science, that's stealing, Adam protested. I didn't steal it, I identified its molecular composition through olfactory analysis. You sniffed my lunch? For science. Ray emerged from the workshop, wiping his hands on the same old mechanic's coveralls he'd worn years ago. Some habits died hard. At 32, he looked older than his years, streaks of premature gray in his hair from his time integrated with the planetary network. But his smile was young, especially when chaos erupted between the kids. Muriel, stop experimenting on your brother's food. Adam, I'll make you a new sandwich. I want the nano-grilled cheese, Adam demanded, with the cheese that changes colors. That's not real cheese, Dea said, entering from the garden, her hands covered in soil. She'd taken to growing things the old-fashioned way, in dirt, despite having unlimited food at their fingertips. And Muriel, what have we discussed about consent in scientific experimentation? That it's a social construct that hampers progress? No. That it's essential for ethical research, but sometimes the pursuit of knowledge? No. Fine. Muriel slumped dramatically. Always ask before sniffing. The house's AI chimed, a warm, familiar sound. Incoming transmission from the Colonial Alliance, marked urgent. Ray frowned. The Alliance only called when they wanted to implement the harvest system on a new world. He'd made the technology open source, but most planets still wanted his personal consultation. The hologram that appeared wasn't an official, but a small Threxian child, amphibious features wide with excitement. Mr. Castellanos, it worked. Our whole planet, we're eating. Real food, not paste. My grandmother cried. She said to tell you. The child switched to Threxian, a series of bubbles and clicks, then back to common. It means the hunger ender, but also the one who makes tomorrow taste better. She says you're in our prayers now, all of you." The message ended, leaving them in silence. "How many worlds is that now?" Dea asked softly. 43, Ray replied. 43 worlds that will never know hunger again. 44, Muriel corrected, looking at her tablet. The Vorthon colonies just came online. Adam, tired of being ignored, tugged on Ray's coveralls. "Dad, why does everyone call you the Hunger Ender? You're just Dad." Ray lifted his son, settling him on his hip. "Long story, buddy. The short version is that once upon a time, people didn't have enough food. That's silly. Food is everywhere. Now it is. But before, Muriel interrupted, unable to resist telling a story, people ate each other. Not literally. Well, sometimes literally, but mostly they ate each other's hopes. They made being hungry someone else's problem, until Dad made it everyone's solution." "I don't get it," Adam said. "You don't have to," Dea said, kissing his forehead. "That's the point. You never have to get it." The storm outside intensified, rain hammering against the windows. But inside, their home was warm, smelling of the dinner that was already assembling itself in the kitchen. The harvest system had learned their preferences, adjusting meals to nutritional needs and taste desires without being asked. "Tell them about Mom," Adam said suddenly. "What about Mom?" Dea asked, amused. "How she caught all the bad guys and saved planets and punched that mean lady in the face." "I didn't punch anyone in the... Okay, one person, but she deserved it." "Tell them about Aunt Muriel." Muriel preened. "Well, I did save the entire planet with my superior olfactory abilities." "You were 8, Ray reminded her. 8 and exceptionally gifted." The family moved to the living room, Adam still demanding stories, Muriel adding increasingly elaborate details, Dea fact-checking with decreasing success. Through the window, the storm was passing, revealing the city beyond, a living tapestry of growing things, where buildings produced food and the air itself shimmed with abundance. "Dad," Adam asked suddenly, "do you miss being inside the computer?" The question caught Ray off guard. "What makes you think I miss it?" "Sometimes you look at the harvest trees and you smell sad. Not sad cake sad like Muriel talks about, just missing something sad." Even at 4, Adam had inherited a touch of the sovereign sense, not as strong as Muriel's, but enough to pick up emotional undertones. "I miss being connected to everything," Ray admitted, "knowing that every meal, everywhere, was happening through me. But I wouldn't trade this, you, your mom, Muriel, this life, for all the connection in the universe." "Good," Adam said firmly, "because tomorrow is pancake day and the computer doesn't make them right. They need dad flips." "Dad flips?" "When you flip them super high and Mom yells at you about the ceiling." "Those are the best kind," Ray agreed. Later, after the children were asleep, Adam in his bed, Muriel on the couch with a tablet still glowing in her hands, Ray and Dea stood on their balcony, watching the city pulse with quiet life. "Any regrets?" she asked. "None that matter." He pulled her close, breathing in her scent, still rain on purple stones, but now mixed with earth from her garden, marker ink from helping Adam draw, and that indefinable smell of home. "The Alliance wants you to speak at the summit next month," she said. "Another 20 worlds are ready to implement the harvest. Let them implement it themselves. The code is free. The knowledge is open. They want the symbol, the Hunger Ender himself. I'm retired from being a symbol. Now I'm just a dad who makes good pancakes." She laughed, the sound carrying across the night air. "The universe's most important revolutionary, reduced to breakfast foods." "Expanded to breakfast foods," he corrected. "It's a promotion." Above them, a shooting star crossed the sky. Or maybe it was a supply ship carrying harvest nodes to some distant world. It didn't matter. What mattered was this: a family born from chaos, a world fed by imagination, and the absolute certainty that tomorrow everyone would eat. "You know what the best part is?" Dea said quietly. "What?" Mirael was right. We do smell like happiness now, all of us, even the whole planet. "What does happiness smell like?" Ray asked, echoing her question from years ago. She considered, then smiled. "Like tomorrow. Like knowing tomorrow will come, and it will be full, and it will be enough." The storm had passed entirely now, leaving the air clean and charged with possibility. Somewhere in the city, the great harvest trees pulsed with their endless production. Somewhere in space, another world was learning to feed itself. And here, in this house on the cliff, a family that shouldn't exist thrived in defiance of every odd. "Come on," Dea said, pulling him inside. "Tomorrow, you're teaching Adam to flip pancakes. The ceiling can handle it. The ceiling cannot handle it. We'll see." As they closed the door, Mirael's voice drifted from the couch. "If you two are going to be gross and romantic, at least be quiet about it. Some of us are trying to solve world hunger on other planets here." "Go to sleep," they said in unison. "Jinx, now you have to sleep." The house settled into comfortable quiet, and the world spun on, abundant and absurd and absolutely perfectly enough.